Okay, looks like we're live.
Loading up to you.
Yo.
Oh, we're live. Okay. Trustee Steve, I thought that was a neck brace for a second, sir. I was concerned. Okay.
Yes, it's live now.
We're live. Okay. So if we can, I want to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for the month for July 29th, 2020. The time is 5:31. I'll do a brief roll call. Trustee Steve.
Present.
Trustee Brown.
Present.
And Trustee House is also present. I want to acknowledge other trustees as members here. Well, not as members of the Finance Committee, but that are joined in with us is Trustee Holmes and Trustee Denton. Thank you for your presence. We also have our Administrator Scott, Chris for our finance team on the line, and of course, the wonderful Giovanni, who will be taking care of any comments in the box towards the end. With that, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the Republic,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice.
justice.
Okay, we'll take a brief moment for prayer. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this meeting. We ask that everybody's minds, hearts, spirits work collectively for the good of the village of Dalton and lead us in the right direction. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. First thing up, we do the monthly financial report. So that was uploaded to it should have been sent out with the monthly agenda. It's uploaded on the village's website and it's accessible. So a couple of highlights that we're going to do on our monthly financials are we always look at our general fund in terms of where we stand. I have my note. They have me moving faster. So in the general fund, within our monthly financial reporting, we're going to go to page 15. Now, if you're looking on your computer document, it should be page 18. Do a brief pause. And for the month of June, general fund had a deficit, $554,083 for the month. Fiscal year to date, general fund has a deficit, $454,145. So we can see there's
is that deficit from COVID?
It's a combination. COVID reduced our salaries, reduced our revenues. But we also want to note that generally we will start off behind in June and July. August, we'll get our property taxes, which will put us ahead, and we will work off of the property taxes for the duration of the year. This year is going to be a bigger challenge because where August and September, we would generally start seeing property tax revenue. This year, that could likely be deferred as the property tax deadline has been pushed back into October. Having said that, Chris, if you want to chime in with any comments on general fund revenues.
Also, you've had a decrease in your state revenues. So your income tax, your sales tax, all of those items have gone down. You are down for those revenues in approximately you've lost about 610,000 in those revenues between May and June compared to last year at the same time.
And that's 610, that's all COVID related.
That is due to, because there are probably less people shopping and those, you have less state income and state sales tax and all those. Also, some of those monies you get from the state itself. The state has decreased as to what they're distributing.
Okay. When you say decreased on that one, Chris, is that decrease meaning it will not come, or decrease meaning it's deferred until a later time?
I believe it will not come because they've decreased what they're actually sending. So
Okay.
let's say you used to get 5, now they're sending you 2.5. I'm just making up numbers for the sake of this conversation. These are
Okay.
not exact numbers.
Okay. That answer your question, Trustee Steve?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, I would kind of highlight too in the along with the attachments and also on the website, there were the notes on the financials that have been left on the website that kind of outline some of the decreases in some of the areas that were probably more impactful to our financial statements. So I would encourage anybody that hasn't taken a look at it to take a look.
I would note one other item.
Yes, sir.
Revenues, if you're looking at your real estate taxes, you'll see that on page 10, if you're looking at the electronically, you will see that we have property taxes pension of 55,000 last year, and this year we have 0. That's because we created the new funds that reflects all of those property taxes related to the pension.
Okay.
We'll also see on that same page, negative 254,000 in the month of June for video gaming tax. That was what we identified as, that was a MFT monies that were received in the payment center that we had to do a journal entry to transfer and record in the motor fuel tax fund. So that's why you see a negative 254,000.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move to the next area that we want to focus on, which is our water fund. Page 18 on the financials, if you printed it out, likely page 21, if you have it on digitally on the computer. Give a moment. And that one shows a monthly deficit in terms of revenue, a negative $346,715 month to date, with the year to date being negative $17,184. I'm making a kind of a leap here that's tied to our not doing the water shutoffs during the COVID period, which have resumed. But Chris, any impacts that you see?
Well, there's 2 reasons for that. In the month of June, you didn't have any billing didn't go out for District 1 in the month of June until July. So that's why you only show 389,000 in revenue being charged compared to last year where it was 689,000. So that's part of the reason why your revenue is, why you're operating at a deficit for this month.
Okay, now and then in terms of billing not going out, are there some things that we've done to make sure that we don't have that challenge going forward? Because I think that's a huge concern, of course, for the village, but also for a resident. If their bill didn't come out, then they're going to be looking for something to pay, and we don't have the bill out.
I don't know as to, I wasn't involved overall in the process of processing billing for utility. So that's a question I don't have the answer to, but I can find out and get back to you all.
Okay, if you could do that, it would be appreciated. Questions, committee?
One question. Didn't we have this same thing happen to us before?
I think
Liz?
there's been a few months where that's kind of happened, but I can't give you like an exact month as to when that happened before.
But it has happened, correct?
We have sent out the water bills late before, yes.
Do we know why?
I'm not sure, Sonia, the director of the water department would need to answer that. I don't really want to speak to that because I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. No other questions, committee? We're going to go into, so those are the 2 areas on the monthly financial reports that we always want to make sure we stay on top of. Of course, for any resident, the full document is available to look into any of the TIF funds, MFT funds, and if there's any questions, please feel free to chime in with questions during citizens address or calls at any point in time within the village. Next thing on the agenda, and I'll ask Chris, if you can kind of summarize the next 2 points that we do talk about, which are the status of our bond payment and the water bills to the city of Chicago, highlighting that in terms of our bond payment is tightly connected. We've talked about this in the budget cycle, but I want to keep on mentioning this so that way we're all on the same page. The reason that we put this on here is about maybe 3 to 4 years ago, there was a missed bond payment, and we want to make sure that with anything that we've done before, we don't continue to repeat the cycle. Our bond payment is closely tied to our ability to collect property tax revenue. And if the property tax collection rate goes down from where it has been, it's going to cause us to need to offset it, a shortage of payment. And we've offset it last year, but it'll cause additional strain on the general fund. So that's the reason we talk about it. And with the COVID crisis, we want to be even more mindful today. But Chris, if you can kind of talk about where do we stand in terms of being on track with the bond payment if possible, as well as the payments to the city of Chicago.
So in regards to the bond payments, your overall payment this year has increased compared to last year for December. You've made your June payment, so that is done. The next payment you will have to worry about is the December payment, which the payment compared to last year has increased by over 600,000. Now you guys have 4 bonds outstanding. And as the trustee said, they are tied your funding level based on real estate collections. Now with real estate collections being deferred as to when the village will be getting those monies, we will need to have reserves in place that if the monies don't come in, let's say we get the monies in December, then we're gonna have to use other resources to cover the bond payment. And then when we get those monies back, we can return it to wherever we need to put to cover it. That's worst case scenario, that we don't get it before the deadline of the actual bond payment. Now, as you can see on the financials on page 31, looking at a hard copy, page 34 electronically, our bond payment this year across the combined total of all the funds, 445,000 was funded with prior year resources. So the cash that we could receive in the earlier months. So what we received between May and June was only $37,000. We had an interest payment of 483,000. So we used the cash flow that we had available in our bond accounts to cover this payment. Now I'm gonna move to the second to last page of the financials. So page 39, looking at a hard copy, page 43, looking at it electronically.
Chris, you said that's how we covered it last year. You just explained how we covered it last year, right?
You guys receive your real estate taxes in a bank account.
Yeah.
Anything that once we have that money in there, it keeps accumulating those funds until we need to pay it out. Between December is when you guys pay in June and December. So any money that you receive after December goes to fund the next year bond payment. So those monies that we received between January of 20 and June of 20, that's how we covered the June payment.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I want to point out on page 39, looking hard copy, page 43, is that we use this schedule to track how much physical cash we have for each to cover the bond payment. So we've made the June payment, which is why we have 408, which was why the amount that's due on December 1st is 5,242,000 and change. That is the payment consisting of your 4 bonds and Chicago. Now, if you look at the Chicago column, that is fully funded. We have sufficient cash in the various village accounts to cover Chicago. But if you look at your bonds, each one of those, we still need to fund it. Now, that's because we haven't received the real estate taxes. But that's a lot of money that we're going to need to get within the next few months. So revenue and cash flow are going to be very important, and we are going to have to be very cognizant and financially review where we stand with our revenues and where we stand with our cash.
So Chris, I want to ask one thing. In terms of the money we're talking about now, because you mentioned revenue versus cash flow, which is very critical. I'm gonna slow down on that point. But the items that we're talking about, are these items that we've budgeted for and we're waiting on the cash to come in, or are these unbudgeted items?
No, we've budgeted for these revenues. We're just waiting for the county to actually distribute the cash. So once people start paying their real estate taxes and then the county distributes it to us, we'll have the cash to fund, to make the debt payment.
Okay.
So, but
Yeah, trustee Stevens.
you're not sure that they're actually going to make that. They're not going to. You're not even sure that they're going to distribute that cash because of COVID-19.
We don't know when. They are going to have to eventually distribute it because everyone, when they pay their real estate taxes, they have to distribute it. You are entitled to those monies from the people who pay their taxes. When those monies are actually going to be distributed, we don't know, because part of it has been extended, the deadline for paying your property taxes.
So, and then we won't, if it's not distributed by the time that we have to make that payment, will we default on it if we don't have the money, or we won't make the payment until we actually get the money?
Right now, the fact that we're all looking at this now, when we get to that point, we'll know ahead of time. And at that point, we'll have to make decisions as to how we're going to pay it. Because it is not a good idea for the village to default on a bond payment. That is something that we do not want to do in any way possible. If we can find a way not to default, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, I remember they did default a few years ago. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to kind of, again, stress, I think we loosely touched on it. One of the areas that we're talking about from a budget side, then it sounds like things are coming in that we anticipated, which is good. The downside is that the bills are coming in faster than the money is.
Yes.
So what we have to be mindful of is both of them, of course. We want to make sure that when we hear totals that we anticipated it, otherwise we're going to be upside down or off budget. But then the second part is, do we have the cash in the bank? And if not, what things do we have flexibility, and what things are absolute must pays? But did that kind of wrap up the 2 points, Chris?
That takes care of the bond. Do you want me to talk about Chicago bills now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the Chicago payment has been made. So those are paid every month. Is there any other questions? I know that Chicago has done a rate increase. The bills were for the month of July about 400,000, which is 100,000 higher than usual. But that's because there was more time in this bill, and there was a water main break. So that could have contributed to the increase in the bills. So we do anticipate next month's bills to be a little lower than usual.
Okay. Questions, committee?
Yes. I guess I have to ask Attorney Murphy, but if anybody knows, I remember Attorney Murphy said he was going to ask Chicago for maybe some relief because of COVID-19 or some type of deferred payment. I don't know if anybody heard anything.
I know I've seen the communication a couple of months ago, and also a follow-up, but I don't know that there's been a written response to that. So, I mean, following up may be worthwhile. Administrator Scott, I don't know if you had anything different. Oh, we may have lost it. That's why I like to see smiling faces. I know everybody's engaged. So, all right, Chris, does that conclude the City of Chicago Water?
Yep, I've got nothing else unless anyone has any question.
Yeah, this is Trustee Holmes. I have a question. How much are we paying Chicago a month now?
The average bill is around 310,000. This month's bill, the one that was paid this week, that was about 100,000 more. The average is about 310,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Having said that, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which are the uncollected water bills, which is the very last page of our document. Page 40. Scroll to the end. It's 40 printed, and I'm not sure how many pages. I can't count that high virtual, but the very last page will show that we have grand total is $4,031,859 of uncollected water bills. A big chunk of it, $3.2 million, is more than 120 days old. That's a project that's ongoing because we have to determine how much of that is actually truly collectible and how much of that we'll need to write off, because I would imagine some of that are people that have moved away and not realistically collectible. What we do want to hone in on are the ones between 0 and 90 days, because that we'll have the highest chance of collecting. And collectively, it's around $800,000 that's still outstanding. We want to make sure that, of course, we encourage residents to pay on time, come in, make payment plans. Water shutoffs did resume earlier this month, but I have heard that numerous bills or numerous settlement arrangements have been made for people. So if you're behind, just be proactive and come in and make the arrangements, because the village does want to work with you, but we have to make sure that the bills are paid. Does anybody has comment on the status of the outstanding water bills to the village?
One question, I know we spoke about those outstanding bills possibly going to a collection agency. Have we started doing that or we haven't?
We have not done that as of now. We did previous years have the benefit of the collection company that we used would also be allowed to reduce any outstanding village bills from someone's state income tax check if the bill was left outstanding. That has been stopped by the comptroller's office, so we do not have that ability, which may render the collection company less effective. But at this moment, we have not transitioned to doing that. If I haven't heard anything more on it.
Have we come up with any other suggestions as to how we're going to collect, these outstanding bills? And another thing I have, spoke to some people before, some residents. I don't see, we still got to get our hands on their water department. I don't see how you can set up a payment arrangement and make no down payment. How can we do that? We set up payment arrangements. When you set up a payment arrangement, you have to put something down, and there should be a percentage in place that a resident has to put down in order to be able to set up those arrangements. But setting up an arrangement and not paying anything on it, you're still accumulating a bill.
Very true. Most times I hear that the arrangements start with 50% down. So I haven't heard of any being done with 0 down, but
well, I heard of one being done with nothing down, not a thing down, nothing collected. So we got to put some things in place in that water department. We definitely got to get a tight grip on that water department.
Okay, so let's note those comments for follow-up and for follow-up questions within the staff, and then we can give an update at the next finance committee meeting.
I have a question too.
Yes, sir.
First we got to take care of home base, and if those that are in charge of the water department, I don't understand how are they sending out the bills late all of the time and then expecting the residents to be on time with theirs. We got to start at the root of this issue right here. And the bills are not going out on time. And, that's where we need to start at. This month, last month, they're not going out on time. So there's a reason why they're not going out on time. Either someone is not doing the job, and then it's falling back, you're blaming the residents, when their bills are late. But we got to look at why are the bills going out late in the first place.
Well, Trustee, I'm in complete agreement with you. So what we'll do is in the following months, and we could put it on the next full agenda as well, August 3rd for discussion. But I'll also do some follow-up, and then by next finance committee meeting, talk about, of course, my question was, what have we done to make sure that this doesn't happen again? So I agree, and that's something that we need to make sure we continue to press, because there are serious problems in the water department. I think we all know that, and us talking about it is not resolving it. So we have to find a different way to press on. Oh, I mean, press to get it better. I shouldn't say press on, press to get it better.
But I thought we spoke on that before when the water bills went out late. Again, you can't hold a resident accountable for a bill that's going out late. You definitely can't ask for late charges if the bills went out late. You know, everybody has a certain time before that bill is to be paid. And we discussed this before. So what have we put in place? We said this before, that we're gonna put something in place. And again, here it is happening again. So we need to get down to what is causing this problem.
And we did.
What's causing this problem? We need to get it handled and handled quick.
We did talk about it before, and Trustee Brown is absolutely right. I mean, we just backpedaling, putting this on the agenda when we need to, either we have a special meeting about this now, about that water department, because the constituents shouldn't be suffering. And we done talked about this 2 times that I know of, and this 3rd time, and it's still recycling the same thing over and over again.
Well, and I'll bring it back again. I'm in agreement. And overall, it's an implementation. We talk about it and we talk about it and we talk about it. At some point, somebody has to be held accountable for managing the department or for overseeing the bills. To me, I'm going to continue to put it on an agenda, to bring it up. It's been on every finance committee meeting agenda, and it'll continue, because while it's not getting better, it's not going away. And I don't want to remove it from an agenda as if it's gone away, when we need to keep talking about it. So for the board, let's continue to press and continue to make the statements. Residents as well, because the voice has been heard. I hear it. I've had several emails, several conversations about it, and I would assume all trustees have. And keep doing it, because right now I feel like the squeaky wheel is going to be the one to get the grease. So I'm in agreement. I'm not defending anything. I'm saying let's continue to hammer this point until it's resolved satisfactorily to the residents, to the board.
Who would have an answer for that?
We're either going to be looking at the administrator, the water department head. Is the start, and then we have to go climb the ladder from there.
Okay, so what do we need to do with the head of the water department? Do we need to have a meeting? What is it that we need to do as trustees to get this resolved? Again, I'm like Drew, we're spinning wheels here. That's wasted time that we can put our time and energy towards something else that needs to be fixed. So we're spinning our wheels here. Let's set up whatever we need to do to set up with the head of the department, and let's get it fixed.
As trustees, we don't have higher fire authority or discipline.
No, it's not saying that, but we need to figure out what is the problem here. Not to fire someone, but if someone is not doing their job, then something needs to be done. Whether you write them up or you put them on, you got to put pen to paper.
Yes.
If a person's not doing their job, then where is it? We can't keep talking about it and not put pen to paper. In order to take the correct action, you got to put pen to paper. Maybe there's something going on, that we could possibly find out if we start putting pen to paper to some of these folks.
Agreed. I will support any action that we want to take. In terms of disciplinary, and you're going back to your question, as trustees, what can we do? And I think we have to continue making the discussion, and continue pressing it. So if I sound defensive, I'm not trying to be at all, because I'm in agreement. I'm 1000% agreement. We keep hammering it, and if there's more, I'm with you. I'm on board. So let's keep pressing it.
Well, let's just get a meeting with the Department of Water here. That's just simple as that. This is an ongoing issue, and it shouldn't be. They know exactly what's going on, or she knows exactly what's going on, and it's a problem.
And I would say, you're right. We have to individually. We have to sit down with the department head, and then when I have a public works committee meeting, she can be on the meeting, and we can answer any question, whatever question that we deem fit, and you see if we can get the correct answers for the residents.
Okay.
Well, I'm in agreement with that, but I'm also in agreement with that. We talking about asking all these questions. She already know we're asking questions. She already listening to what we're talking about, so she should have an answer anytime we set up a meeting. It shouldn't be delayed. So she already knows what's going on in her department, why it's not getting out there, and people need to be held accountable, and as constituents shouldn't be held hostage. So I'm done with that.
Okay. Hey, Trustee Steve, would you be okay with giving an update in your report on the 3rd with public works or public safety?
On where?
You know, we do the committee reports on the agenda for Monday.
Next board meeting?
Yeah, and you have the public works committee.
Where it works, yeah. And I'm gonna see if we can get Miss London, the head of the water department, on the Zoom call. I don't see why we couldn't. And let's get some real answers and some real solutions.
Okay. I don't want to stop the hot seat. Any further questions, comments?
No, it's
So,
Chris still-
Trustee, I did want to add, I didn't know you were calling me because I've been on the call, but so we did waive the water, the late fees. However, I'm not over the water department, so I know that for sure. But as far as the other answers, I cannot answer them. I do think that if this was on the agenda and it was known, I do recommend that Sonia be on these committee meetings moving forward because I cannot answer these questions. And I do think we do need answers.
Okay. I appreciate the feedback, and it sounds like we know the direction we want to go in. So we just got to press it.
Hey, Trustee House, is Chris still on?
Trustee, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you were still on. I have a question for you later on, but go ahead. Continue, Trustee House.
Okay. All right. So if that concludes the agenda item for the outstanding water bills, I'm gonna the next thing we talked about the furloughs, and some of the furlough days and the implementation of time card system. So as it relates to furlough days, the comment at last month's meeting was that we wanted to make sure that either everybody was doing furlough days or the furlough days were removed. As of the last payroll report that I've seen, it appeared that I haven't looked at July, the last payroll in July. Prior to that, all the furlough days had been implemented. So it appeared that everybody post our meeting has started to do the furlough days. We'll look at the most recent payroll report to see that our last payroll has had them. I've also had some discussion with Chris, Administrator Scott, and a few others about ways that we might be able to do some cost savings. We're currently for the furlough saving a little bit over $10,000 per payroll. So compared to what we're losing, it's in terms of revenue, it's a drop in the bucket, but we have to make sure that we find ways to save revenue or make the cash flow work as best possible. When we did the budget, we budgeted for 2 months of furloughs, and we are beyond that 2-month time frame. But there are other alternatives that we believe may be able to save money, and we're kind of working numbers out for things to be presented to the mayor for consideration, so that we can lift the furloughs. I'm sure make some employees happy, but at the same time, not add additional expenses. So there will be more to come on that report in the coming month, in coming weeks. As it relates to the time clock that we were recommending that we implement a system at the current moment, we use the Paylocity system. However, we are not physically punching in. We are using a manual timesheet. Chris is working to get some quotes on what a hand scan system would cost for paychecks, because there is an additional expense that will be presented to the board on paychecks implementing that. So we want to know what that expense is. It will be reduced because we don't have as many employees today as we did when we signed up with paychecks. But my feeling and the projections are that if we implement the system, our savings on the time on people clocking in and out accurately will offset the cost of implementing that system, and we'll have better records for our accruals as well as day-to-day operations. Chris, did you have anything you want to add on there, or did I misstate anything?
No, I've reached out to Paychecks to send out an updated quote. They haven't. They got back to me today. They need to verify some things, and we're trying to have a conference call next week to make sure everything is good, so that way they can give us a revised quote.
Okay. So I appreciate it. As you have it, I'll make sure I forward it to the board, and we'll continue the discussion on that as well. Any comments, questions, committee, board?
Yeah, Trustee Owens, I have a question for Chris regarding payroll.
Yes, sir.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Chris, I'm gonna email you this too, and then I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna go back to the unauthorized or authorized payment for Miss London. Do you know?
Trustee, if I can't, I know they always advise us when we don't want to say specific personnel publicly, so we want to,
Okay,
yeah.
That's a 10-4. Well, Chris, do you know who authorized personnel A documents that wasn't signed? Do you know who authorized it to be signed and for this individual to get paid?
No, but trustee, I'm a little confused as to what you're specifically asking about.
Okay, what I'll do, I will email you, and it's the same situation that we was talking about, that an employee was told by another employee that she had such amount of vacations, and it's not in black and white. It did not come through the staff, and it went through someone that told this individual that she had this much time. And last we talked, you said it came across your desk. No department head signed it at all. So if no department head signed it at all, I'd like to know who authorized it. I would email you, and would like you to give the whole board that information too.
Yes, trustee. I may have follow-up questions, which I'll probably call you about or email you about Friday, because tomorrow I have another client. I've got a meeting in the morning with another client. So if I have follow-up questions, I may call you on Friday to go over it.
Okay, and Trustee House, if you don't mind, I just have 2 small questions to ask Chris so I can get those out the way. You can continue on, but it also has to do with the finance too.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, Chris, I also would like to know, I understand last time I talked to you, there was no money inside the TIF. I would like it in black and white to find out if indeed it's not, where was that money spent at, and what it was spent on. Second, I would like to know, and you can, if you don't have the answer for this tonight, you can email me too. I would like to know, was it or is it any TIF money that was paid out to any employee for a paycheck?
I have a few follow-up questions, but the first one, is there a specific TIF you were asking about?
All of the TIF, whatever TIF and all of the TIF that you know of that's zero right about now, I would like information to find out where did that money go to and what it was spent on.
So there's currently one TIF account. So if you're looking at the financials, that would be page 27 hard copy and 30 electronically. So the TIF 4, which is the one you guys are currently in the process of creating, that one currently has no cash, but that's because you haven't physically created and no one's starting to pay taxes on it. So once actually people start, once the construction and everything is done and people actually start paying taxes, cashes will be received. But as normal with TIFs, you first upfront the costs before you have any money coming in. So the village will first upfront some of the costs before you actually starting to receive monies.
Hey, Chris, just to clarify, when you say the village, are you saying the general fund?
Yes. Yes, I'm talking about the general fund will first upfront some of the cost.
And then the TIF will reimburse the general fund upon being funded.
Yes.
Okay, I'll email you. I still need to want to get something in black and white on that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Trustee Owens, that concludes your questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna email him with the last one and get the answer to that one too. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right. All right, next agenda item. We had, I thought Trustee Henry was joining. I should have sent her a reminder. We were doing, the request we talked about at the monthly meeting, which was a request for a permit holiday, which was something that had previously been done. There were mixed questions about it. Now, and I'm not sure exactly which format that Trustee Henyard was looking at. My recommendation, in particular with us being very tight on cash, was that if we move forward with it, that we cap the dollar amount so that it's not $40,000 or $50,000 of lost revenue, but still allows for kind of a balanced approach to allowing the permit holiday, allowing some residents to benefit while still not losing a lot of revenue. So that was my take on there. I don't know if any board members want to comment, and Trustee Henyard is not here. So if not, if you want to hear from her first, we can move on, bypass this agenda item.
Are we in a position to do that right now? Financially?
So when we're talking about that, if we capped it, it would mean that the potential revenue loss would be $5,000 worth of permits. You also do run into the cases where individuals who may not normally come in to get permits will be more likely in hopes of getting a permit holiday. So we probably would not lose the full $5,000, but that would be lost revenue. We would be ensuring that every home has a proper inspection, because you do have residents that may take it upon themselves to get an inspection, to do electricity work and things. And if something goes wrong and they didn't have it properly inspected, that could be a harmful situation for the resident. So that's kind of the mixed the pros and the cons.
Okay.
I mean, we listened to how we're how much of a deficit we're operating in right now. I don't think we can give away $5,000. And then I talked to the department head about who will be responsible for doing this, and she was just like, she's already stretched thin and taking furlough days. So to add that on to her and to give away revenue, even if it's just $5,000, I think right now at this time we can't afford to give away nothing. You know, it's just we're already operating at a deficit, and $5,000 is not, you know what I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big thing. But I just heard Chris say that at this time we got to be fiscally conservative and financially responsible on any and everything. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Thank all committee for the input. At this point, I'm gonna move past that item. Trustee Henyard is not here to, I would say, present on her behalf, but I think we got some comments and feedback that I can go back to her and let her make her recommendation, or if she wanted to push for committee of the whole.
Yeah.
And
Trustee House, I just wanted to add also, I don't know, I also am weary if this is a good time for that. And it's also, I don't know if Chris had mentioned this earlier when we were discussing the deficit. When we were going over the potential loss, remember the three of us were sitting down discussing that. One thing that we left off was the commercial billing sales of water. So typically on any given month around this time of year, we may collect anywhere between 100 and 110,000, or we bill that and we get it from the businesses and water revenue. We are actually about $85,000 less, because of the fact that during COVID, you know, a lot of the businesses were closed. So instead of us billing between 100 and 110,000 for the month, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I think it was around 28,000 that we collected. So that is a huge deficit also to add to that. And the furlough days that we're taking now are 10,000 a month. That would approximately eat up half of the furlough days that the employees took. And I just, you know, right now, I think it's a great program. If we were able to do it right now, I just am worried about us even giving away $5,000 right now. That's all.
Okay. Well, thank everybody for the input. I think we're going to be moving on off of that point. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move the next two. Chris, I think you can articulate these best. The request was actually put in writing, so it was also sent to all board members. It's available on our government tab for residents to download. Request for some closure of inactive bank accounts and transferring of funds that were necessary that we spoke about earlier for the bond. But Chris, if you can kind of take those two items, please.
So the village has a few bank accounts in which there is no activity. There is no benefit in us keeping those accounts still open when there's nothing going through. There's no deposits, no withdrawals from the account. It's just more accounting work on our end to make sure that these accounts reconcile, and it's cash that the village could use to spend on actual other expenditures that we have. So it's cash flow that we can get. So that's why we're recommending closing these accounts, because there's no reason not to close them, and it should in turn cause a small decrease in the fee that you're being charged by Fifth Third for having each bank account open.
Okay, Chris, can you elaborate a little? When the accounts were open, what were the purposes that they were open for?
So when these accounts, so the JAG and the JAG account was open for the JAG grant, but what happens is we used to have a checkbook for that grant. So, or a checkbook for that bank account. That checkbook has long since been gone, has been finished. So now whatever happens is the monies are deposited into a general account, and then a check is cut that the board approves through the general account. So there's no reason for us to keep this account open just to deposit the money and then transfer it back into the general account every month, every time we get the grant. So it's just an account there that we don't do anything with. And the last 2 times the village has received that grant, those monies have been deposited into the general account. So the actual purpose of the account is not even being used. Now the 911 account, that was another account. And when you guys had your tax levy had a 911 line item, we had the concern that you may have more monies coming in than you're actually expending. But with the fact that your ambulance service is over almost $50,000 a month, and you get at most maybe $5,000 in an entire year in 911 revenue, you're never going to receive enough money for which you're gonna have to be worried about having separate funds. So that's another reason why to close the 911 account. And it's the same thing for the other 2 accounts.
Okay. Now the one that the JAG account, you say the funds are going currently into the general fund. Should those funds be going into the JAG account, or should that be operable? Or...
It's okay for them to go into the general bank account, because we have a separate line item in the books to where they're reflected. So in the financials, on page 7, hard copy 10 electronically, you will see how we have the last in the total intergovernmental, you see JAG. That reflects that grant. So whenever we get monies in, it gets charged to that line item. And then whenever we expend it, we have a expense account for that account in the police department. So we match the revenue with the expenses. That way we can track what revenue we receive and then what expenditures we charge to it to make sure that we expend everything that we receive.
Okay. Question for any committee? Questions? Okay, hearing no questions. If you can go to cover the next, see, do we need well, I'm okay as a consensus vote to move those forward to the August 3rd meeting. Trustee Brown?
I agree.
And Trustee Steve?
I agree.
Okay, Chris, if you can, next item on there was the funds transfer.
Yes, so this is a per books journal entry only. It is not a physical transfer of cash. So whenever the debt service is, for the simplicity, debt service, if you can't make the debt service in the cash that is in the debt service accounts, the general fund will square up the difference. So the general fund will fund the remaining portion of the debt so that the payment is made. Well, what we do is we record those as interfund transfers, interfund receivables and payables. Well, the village will never receive more monies for its debt than what it actually has in the debt payment for the subsequent year. So you're going to have each year is going to increase the amount between the funds. Accounting 101 states that if a receivable payable is not collectible, you write it off. That is effectively what we're doing here. We're doing a accounting books entry, writing off these interfund balances between these funds. There will be no transfer of cash. It's just a per books journal entry.
Can I reword it? Tell me if I'm understanding it right. I'm gonna put my words to it. At some point, there was a transfer from the general fund to the bond fund to cover our bond obligation. Am I right?
Correct.
And that transfer, when it was completed, which I believe was 2019, has been recorded as an interfund transfer. However, we don't anticipate the general fund being repaid.
Correct.
And your request is that since we do not anticipate the general fund being repaid, we want to document that the general fund paid the bond fund, and we're not going to and we won't recapture it.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for the board? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to emphasize, I just want to make sure that there's no physical cash transferred, which it sounds like you said it, but I'm going to re-emphasize that between any of these accounts with the vote. And hearing that, I'm okay with moving this item forward to August 3rd meeting. Trustee Brown?
I agree.
Trustee Steve?
I agree.
Okay, so we have that. Next thing on our agenda, which is the final agenda item I'll put on here. No, there were some discussion at our previous meeting on the budget item. So I reached out with Trustee Holmes, Trustee Denton, Chris to make himself available, and then also heard from some residents as well with questions, which is always a good thing because it's good to get feedback and input. That's what we promote these things, the budget out there for. One big thing to make sure that we recognize, 2 points. July 30th was the deadline for the county for us to have our budget approved and moved into the county. If we do not have a budget on file with the county, they do have the option of delaying our property taxes, which is something we want to make sure does not happen. But having said that, we consistently have the opportunity to amend our budget. So if items pose themselves today, tomorrow, next week, if we see fit as a board to make amendments, or if some of the questions that may have been left unanswered pose the need for additional adjustments, then it's our responsibility to do so. Having said that, I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten from residents and the feedback from the board. I put this on here just to open it up to see if there were any additional questions or anything that had not been outstanding. I did want to give a quick kind of shout out on the budget, but as well as collectively, Chris, Janice, Administrator Scott have all made themselves very available, not only for answers to the budget, but as well for answers to a lot of the questions about our village's finances. So I get the pleasure of getting up here and rambling every once in a while, but all the hard work is done by those individuals. So I want to say thank you for making this easier, but at the same time, open it up for board or committee questions that may have been left unresolved about the budget. Okay, and if I hear no questions, we're going to move forward, but always be mindful. Any questions that come up, if we need to amend the budget, we will do so as necessary. And we'll go into the citizens address component, citizens address, because I believe all the questions were answered from the committee and the board. And I'll go to citizens address. So Giovanni, if you can assist with any questions that are out there.
All right, so we have a few. The first question is, are the water meter readers actually reading the meter? Because they are leaving cards and not giving people enough time to get to the door, and then giving elders 24 hours to turn their cards in.
That's a question we're going to also add on as we speak with the department head, their job. Trustee Steve, you have a comment?
No, we can save that question. You make sure we,
okay,
get that question so we can get that answer.
Okay, I will respond. The job is to get an actual reading and make sure that we wait to give a reasonable amount of time for the resident to do it. So by this job description and what we are requiring as a board is that the meter reader do so. But we will, as we said, we will follow up with the manager of the department and ensure that the comment is noted.
Okay, and then I can email you questions. There's another one that's likely going to be for the department. They want to know, have meters been read since March? It seems as if bills send out without getting a reading.
You kind of faded in and out. Can you repeat that question, please?
Sure. It says, the question is, have the meters been read since March? Because it seems as if bills were being provided without getting a reading.
Okay, right? You say, have the meters been read since, and then I kind of lose you.
I'm sorry. Have the meters been read since March?
Okay, yeah, that's one we also have to, we'll also have to address to the manager of the water department.
Okay, and I can just email you these questions as well, but I'm still reading them so the residents.
Yeah, please read them for the record, but we do want to have them in email, and that way, I think it illustrates well the concerns about the water department or any other area.
Okay, how many people are working in the water department to collect bills?
I want to say there's 3. Liz, are you there? Is it 3 people in the water department?
Yes, there's 3 inspectors.
3 and an inspector.
Okay.
No, there's 3 employees there, and that's including the director of the water department.
Okay, 3 includes the director.
Okay. The next question is, what is a permit holiday?
Permit holiday are for building permits or improvements that residents would do to their home. Any significant improvement, plumbing, electrical, roofing will require the resident to come into the village, notify the village of the repair, and get a permit for the work that's being done. So that way the village can inspect and make sure you have somebody that's qualified to get the work done and that is done and without causing additional harm to the home.
Okay, the next question is, are you guys considering the residents of Dalton when referring to the permit-free holidays? Just like the village is hurting, so are the residents.
The residents are considered. I think that's part of the reason for the mixed decisions and mixed voting is there's the need for revenue on one hand, which we've talked, I guess, in depth. But then there also has to be benefit to the residents, and I think that's why this item made it to the agenda for discussion. And I encourage any resident that feels that it will be a good idea to chime in as well to let the board know your feelings on it.
Okay, that was the last question, and then I'll just copy paste the questions and email to you, so you'll have a trustee house.
Okay. And with that being said,
one last thing, Chris, do you know, at least by the next board meeting, will you have word on that time card system? Do you think you will?
I've reached out to them today, so I don't know.
Okay.
I'm hoping I'll have an answer, but I can give you a based on the quote that we had when we were originally at what our payroll level was before. I can give you an approximate how much it would cost now per payroll. It will be an approximate number. It's not a guaranteed number, but I can give you at least something.
Okay, you can email it to me. Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. We're hearing no further comments or questions. I'll see if I can I'll make the motion that we adjourn the finance committee meeting.
Second.
Okay, being motion and seconded. Oh, I saw somebody I saw the screen shift. Somebody come on. No. Okay, motion and seconded. I'm going to do a roll call. Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Steve.
Aye.
And Trustee House is aye. Meeting is adjourned 6:30 p.m. Thank everybody for their comments and questions.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.